Oh, hi.
Welcome.
Hello, how day. We're going to talk a little bit about turquoise. This is a second tier meme here. With teal, we can get away with talking a lot about anything that has to do with like evolution, development, maybe like a conflict between stages that's resolved through like a higher understanding, storytelling moving into the meta. And as we go higher than turquoise, we can get a lot more into the sort of like cosmic roots of life on the world and the cosmic origins of the universe and these sort of more deep lore that always come back to the Lovecraftian thing. But in the Turquoise Twilight, we don't have those machinations as much. So turquoise might be the very hardest one for us to accomplish. We
In
didn't.
most of the research we've done, it says that yeah, just skip turquoise. It's tough to
Pin down.
convey and pin down turquoise. So yeah, most people just skip it in discussion.
Skip it.
So our solution to this was to identify themes of turquoise or elements of turquoise in horror movies.
Hera. If the teal meme is sort of downward looking, but teal's not really obsessed with quadrants. Teal sees these stages intuitively. I mean, we can kind of break down like what the heck is intuition because it isn't guessing, it isn't divination, it isn't self hypnosis. You, as a pattern recognizing brain, see something that you don't know what to call the pattern. You don't have a name for it, but you are seeing some sort of pattern mechanic. And so you're looking for a name for it or some way to kind of characterize this thing you're seeing. That's sort of the intuitive motion. It sort of starts with a recognition of something unknown. So the intuitive mind is always kind of reaching into an unknown place and trying to make sense of a reality that's sort of mysterious or kind of unexplored. So it finds these stages of consciousness at some point, and we have this like visible light spectrum thing occurring in altitudes. And I think for turquoise, it's natural to kind of ask these more fundamental questions like, why do these stages exist? Where do they come from? What are the boundaries? What happens before infrared? Where does it go after second tier? Where does it end up? What is the universe of turquoise values trying to accomplish? The turquoise thinker extrapolates, if we're to tell this whole story of reality, it seems to be the case that the matter of the universe is getting quicker and quicker at waking up and growing up. The stuff that composes our physical material universe is waking up, moving around, singing and dancing, making choices. The universe is becoming self-aware. So it becomes sort of a turquoise goal, perhaps, to usher that, to become an agent of that. I am the universe. I'm waking up the universe. That's what I'm up to.
I am the universe, as are you, as is the universe, as is the planet.
Yeah.
It's the unification of everything.
Let's all wake up. Let's all fix our shit. Let's all grow up. I'm not this person I claim to be. I'm totally this person I claim to be, but I don't identify with it. You stop identifying with it. If we're just here together as consciousness, trying to wake up and evolve the world and create joyful outcomes that aren't hellish, we kind of do the teal meme thing of abandoning or transcending our previous identities and attachments and stories. And like we said in teal, you become less of a story and more of like a present moment stat sheet, looking forward, looking backward. But we're just here now, and we don't have that baggage of having to represent the character that we've played our whole life, the personality that we try to portray all the time. So there's that
Big,
freedom.
another big shift is you're seeing all quadrants at the same time. So stage one, stage two, you're no longer you're in the moment, but you're in the moment from four different aspects.
Of this is how Ken Wilber describes like the turquoise transition for himself and for his understanding was that the quadrants really unlock this mechanism where it's like, okay, I get the stages and I get that the stages occur in self-culture and nature, but that this is kind of the nature of reality, that it's unfolding stages in four quadrants to, if you can even start to kind of like well, does that make sense? Does that fit? Is that what I'm seeing? Is this the reality that I'm experiencing? The quadrants become super, super fundamental because it's all this process that that we're doing together, that the material of the universe is doing together, that the consciousness of the universe is doing together. All of these things seem to be aligned on this idea of more consciousness, more intelligence, more sensitivity, more compassion, more care, more I'm awake right now. I'm going to use my energy for the work of this universe, whatever the heck it is, this cosmos. Quadrants are a way of explicitly conjugating reality. You take the reality that you're experiencing, and just like your infant mind, and just like your mind does, you split it into that which is identified as the you and that which is identified as other to you. So interior and exterior. So in our present reality, we experience the interior of my thoughts and feelings and emotions and perceptions. We also experience an exterior reality. I have no control over whether my phone rings, whether I should probably silence my phone, whether a train runs into my house. There's an external world that I don't create, that's not my imagination, that is equally real to the imaginary consciousness world that I'm experiencing. So interior and exterior. And then there's this funny thing that is a little less intuitive to the way our mind works. Every instance of a thing, a holon, a person, a consciousness, a being, is itself a unique and special snowflake with its own unique properties, that nothing else is identical to that thing. And at the same time, there is no such thing as uniqueness. There's no thing that is not an example of another thing. As a unique and special personality, I'm a white guy, I'm a human being, I'm an American, all these, I'm educated, all these ascribed status, apparent status. You can look at me and see things about me, how tall I am, how much I weigh. And these are just properties of the being that I'm being. We're disidentifying with those more and identifying more and more with that which is kind of common between all sentient beings, just this like awakeness, consciousness, expressed through different types, expressed through different quadrants. So in the interior, we see that otherness or that identity as a group manifesting in the we, in things that we share together, our inside jokes, our little language bits. I, as an American, share American culture with Americans. I, as a planetary being, share the experience of being a human being on the planet Earth. We have that in common. So there's this we thing that we're doing at all times. You go to work, you're an agent of your employer, of that corporation or that workplace. You, as an American, are a patriotic national citizen with duties to your country. So in the experience of self, we also have this collective experience and this collective responsibility. Any item, any rock, any building is an example of a building. The plan was drawn up based on memes from other plans. In the lower right, in particular, the exterior collective, we see this crazy mimetic transformation as memes are replicated over and over. People aren't very creative, but they take things that they see and they replicate them very good. We're very intelligent with pattern recognition.
And maybe improve on it just a little bit.
Little tiny
do that 100
innovations.
times, and there's a lot of improvement that happened.
And you're just focused on that one thing you want to change. It's open source. You do your move. Now the thing is improved and someone else does their thing, and it just grows by these little tiny chips. Yeah, chips to the meme. Slight adaptations, but the meme itself is transmitting, surviving, growing stronger. It's like, how does Adam exist without the English language, without buildings, without airplanes, without our understanding of physics and our education system and all the books? I am not my own deal. I am a puppet of various systems. So it's all that stuff at once. We're totally individual beings. We're totally collective beings. We exist interior and exterior. So that's kind of the quadrants. Teal memes really focused on, they're weirdly focused on the upper left, like how do I increase my stage of consciousness? What stage am I at? How do I increase it? How do I associate with others at that stage? That's a very teal meme focus. And also in the lower right, teal meme's obsessed with the technology of second tier. And I think that turquoise, we describe teal as abandoning identity, abandoning the self and the story and the narrative. Turquoise is kind of because you got to be something. And they're realizing I can't really get away from all these things that have informed my life, all these themes and these quirks and these jokes and all these hooks that have kind of made the pattern of myself. So you sort of re-own it to a certain extent, or get comfortable with expressing it again now that you've transcended it, now that you don't identify or attach with it. You can kind of come forward and say, like, all right, as a goof, since I got to be someone, I'm being this one really hard. I'm fully this imaginary self.
For a real rough cut example, I want to be a marine biologist with a specialization on aquatic mammals. Teal is making this declaration. I'm going to help this thing, but I'm going to also live in Salt Lake City, Utah, where Turquoise is like, yeah, I want to do all these things. And it would be easy to expand my own knowledge of this thing if I was left alone in Salt Lake, Utah. But I know now that I should probably be where aquatic mammals are.
That would help.
There's like beavers,
salty sea dogs.
Yeah.
But so Teal has this big breakthrough that everything kind of exists and recognizes a problem. And Turquoise takes that and says, well, we should probably get to work on it. It also is one of the first, correct me if I'm wrong, I never said if I'm right, is one of the first stages that says, hey, there's none of these stages are right or wrong. They all exist and all need to be utilized, celebrated, explored with equal interest. First stage or first tier, every stage you get to, you can usually spot what stage someone's in because they're hating so hard on the previous stage. I call that Adam on this on an episode prior.
That's kind of, like the maleness of the warmer stages, or the
the even number stages, right? Outward looking.
Yeah. So I mean,
very judgmental.
Just like we pointed out, like orange meme really values intelligence, and then it's like green meme also values intelligence, but they really underplay that, and they try to embrace like different intelligences and different ideas of conceptualizing intelligence. Teal turquoise, very similar. Teal gets really obsessed because they start thinking maybe there's something to these stages, and maybe there is a value to being at a higher stage. Very new idea to a lot of people. And so it gets kind of obsessed with that, and it wants to be at the highest stage. Well, it's like, what does a person do at the highest stage? They do work. So you kind of have to do work that's relevant to the work that mankind's doing. I think Turquoise is more ready to make that like, okay, I exist at this level in real life, and I have to do this work in real life with these people. And so I do have to embrace, I don't get to be the highest stage on every line I can possibly be. That's a privilege that like nobody in the world has. And
Turquoise is pretty rare in and of itself. It's in its embryonic stage, right?
Turquoise is rare.
There aren't any societies that we can reference. Once we got to Teal, we mentioned every stage so far we can reference like a point in history or a group of humans that have exhibited this as a culture. Teal and Turquoise don't exist at a cultural, like tribal or group level. It's individuals. And so it's really hard to, everything we talk about is conceptual.
Yep.
We could have just skipped it, but we didn't.
Yeah, we're not skipping. Like the turquoise meme kind of doesn't exist as like a cultural movement. Maybe there's sort of glimmerings of it, but like you're saying, probably like Aronofsky and Kubrick and a lot of these filmmakers are existing at a turquoise meme level of consciousness as artists and filmmakers. And the point is, like, does that actually translate or express much into the work that they do? That's like a different question entirely. Or, are they engaging with the public on that level? That's a different question. So we're trying to find examples where maybe the filmmaker is like actually revealing that, exposing that, trying to tell stories in a turquoise meme environment.
We were doing some research before the call and reading some threads about turquoise discussion. It seems to me second stage, especially ones above teal, turquoise, and higher, are almost deified. Question that was asked was, turquoise exhibit itself in the media. And the person for the first 2, 3, 4 responses just got torn apart as if they were some sort of idiot because like obviously Turquoise isn't going to be listening to music. They're not going to watch movies. They're going to be bettering
You
themselves
got
somehow.
shit to do. Yeah. Save
Yeah,
the whales.
they're going to be doing the million other things that wasn't this person's question. And what it didn't irritate me, but I thought was fascinating in a negative way was the person never claimed to be Turquoise. They were just asking a question,
Yeah.
and they got not trolled, but they got kind of chewed up. Like, yeah, you should go be out in the wilderness. You should be, out in the world. You shouldn't be watching movies. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are
Movies can
movies
be
not part of the world? Did that
Yeah,
happen?
I think, last time I checked, they were though.
movies can be art. They can be, informative. It could have been documentaries. I had a problem with the statement as well as a movie lover.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like kind of deifying stage two, like that. A stage two being can only be bettering themselves. They don't actually exist on like the same plane. They're this mystical thing that's
Yeah.
always in some sort of trance state.
Or
And
something.
seeing the numbers roll up the screen as the Matrix would. It's disappointing to think that that's what a teal or turquoise person is thought of as is this like martyr to themselves. You only exist as someone to improve your own stage and the world as it is. You don't have time for movies. What a
And
waste of time for you.
I would even point to the rare examples of third tier beings in the world. We kind of imagine this monastic lifestyle as being like, oh, like they're completely cut off. They're in a cave. They have no light. They have no warmth. And it's like, no, like monks watch the news. They're very engaged with what's happening in the world. They're
Yeah.
very concerned about they haven't given up on the world or escaped from it. This is how they're engaging with the world in a sober, awake way. And maybe like from another perspective, it seems like they're not doing anything, but they're certainly paying attention. I mean, it's not teal turquoise. It's really orange, green, teal, turquoise are busy people. They have a lot of responsibilities. And sometimes if you're not a filmmaker or an artist or anything like that, or those don't bring you a lot of therapeutic benefit, maybe you would spend your time doing something else. But to suggest that like the second tier is uninterested in art is very silly. Like
It's
second tier
weird.
is very interested in art. It's a fundamental question. It's one of like the three values, art, morals, and science. The three like things you can pursue as a human being interested in excellence.
At
Yeah.
my core, if that's what I thought turquoise and or whatever higher is, I'm gonna stop.
Yeah, I don't want to go.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
stop.
I don't want to
That
not
sounds
watch
awful.
Transformers Reborn.
There's no joy. You're like a robot, like emotionless.
So I mean, it's not totally false or wrong, but it's like people create
It's a
these sort of,
different
like you say,
perspective.
they sort of lionize or heroize these like higher stages as though they're not just like human beings that also exist at every stage.
That also stub their toe. That also
And
like
go,
get
ow, and
bird shit on them and
get
dislike it.
mad that you're in their space, or yeah,
Maybe
they're just
sometimes they want to watch rom-coms.
Yeah,
yeah, dude.
they're not just like hovering
That's
around.
okay.
Siddhartha eating 1 grain of rice every day. That's one dude. That's not the entirety of everyone, and that's not the path for everyone to get whatever form of enlightenment you deem as enlightenment. But to martyrize the person is having a terrible life from the perspective of you because like they're not doing anything, and then they're so caught up in enlightenment for themselves that they just completely disregard the outside world is crazy talk.
People on forums trying to represent like integral theory, they're often zealots. They're often people who are just getting excited about it now, finding this thing that kind of confirms their identity and wanting to push that out there and say like, I'm not weird and wrong. I'm just like at this higher level of consciousness and everyone else is wrong, and they have like sort of an axe to grind there or whatever.
I don't want to discredit everyone that made a comment. No one on
No.
there said as a turquoise or as whatever. No one said that. It was more the like we're touching on the like deification This is
They wouldn't
this
do
is like some
that.
sort of like mystical thing. That's what got me. Not the people themselves. Their comments are valid. That's what they think. But as a group on this thread with 14 or 15 responses, it seemed that the common theme was you actually become a different person. You're still the same person.
Whatever you are into, you're into. You can be a second tier skateboarder. You can be a second tier fashion model. I mean, this isn't like a industry
Second-tier
specific
serial
calling.
killer.
Sure. I mean, yeah. I mean, I hope not. But geez.
Well,
We got a lot of suggestions, and we kind of push out a lot of the cosmic stuff or transcendental state stuff because that kind of goes higher, in my opinion. So let's talk a little bit about cosmic horror. We can kind of pickle it. This guy Lovecraft, who was a crazy guy, was a racist. I mean, it's fine. He's just a weird guy. He's not a hero. All right. He wrote these stories that have become the basis for so much horror, like everything Stephen King writes, The Twilight Zone. It's like a lot of it is looking back on this Lovecraft stuff. They kind of have to do with like the origins of life and the origins of consciousness, typically coming from giant, incomprehensible god creatures who interbreed with animals to make humans, to kind of seed humanity. So these might be like the deep ones, like fish-like creatures. And so we're all like Cthulhu, the squid monster from Call of the Cthulhu. Oh. So how this becomes turquoise indigo is we're looking at the origins of consciousness, the origins of life, the prospect that maybe this universe is created by some sort of consciousness or intelligence or plan. We're looking at the actual historical origins of life, and we're finding these like shocking things, these things that are like, we didn't just evolve naturally here. There's actually this like evil, torturous monster that seeded life on Earth, and that is our whole role. We're just this playground for these monsters to come and consume us once we're fattened up. So that's super spooky, and it does deal with these turquoise sort of conceptions. I think turquoise starts to kind of intuit and gather that there is like a through line to the process of evolution in the universe, in the cosmos, that it's becoming more conscious and awake. And so the cosmic horror twist is that is somehow a conspiracy, or it leads to hell, right, or it leads to insanity. We have to villainize it somehow. Whereas, yeah, like turquoise is saying it leads to sanity, sobriety, bliss, liberation, oneness with the universe, Godhead. Cosmic horror is saying like, no, it's just, all it is the devil. All it is a nightmare. So possible, scary. And this keeps a lot of people up at night to think that, at the bleeding edge of what I'm conscious of is just this horrible nightmare. So millions and millions of horror movies are going to put us there, but we're not really doing the turquoise. We're not going to call those turquoise.
Yeah, we're trying to be turquoise. A movie that is turquoise, I don't think exists.
Fully turquoise.
A horror movie. We can point to maybe some drama, science fiction.
But there are concepts, there are scenes, there are characters in horror that touch on this. We've talked about Cabin in the Woods before. At the very end,
too turquoise to watch Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah, right. I don't have time. I'm busy. I'm busy sitting and staring.
I live under a rock because I'm enlightened.
Yeah, exactly. It is that sort of Cthulhu character driving the entire plot of the story, and we don't find that out until the end. That it is this sort of Earth
gods,
planet old god thing that has to be satiated. And with Lovecraft talking about these mega gods breeding with animals and things, and that's how humans come along. I mean, the Romans and the Greeks said that too.
I was thinking the same things. Very Zeus, like why does he have to go mate with humans?
Hermes and Hercules. There's so many
and that's the Lovecraftian gem is you're looking back at all these traditions and like, well, actually, these guys have been saying the whole time that the Lizard King's going to eat us all. So
Right.
these aren't alien ideas. These are like very historically rooted.
And ancient aliens
Yeah.
is another example. Like there had to have been a time in human history that we interbred with a species from another planet because we're pretty well idiots and couldn't
And
have figured anything out.
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, turquoise wouldn't be closed off to that, like as a
No, am I
possibility.
right? Are they wrong? Who knows?
Who
Is it
knows?
weird? Yeah.
Spooky
Are
stuff.
are are octopus species in the ocean, are they alien because they have so little in common with everything else on the planet? Maybe. I'm going to completely cut myself off for the rest of my life and go contemplate this for the betterment of everyone.
So I might point, I think that you can come up with turquoise filmmakers and you can come up with turquoise movies. So we can kind of summarize, it's like the Wachowskis do some turquoise stuff, I would say, in general. So Cloud Atlas is a pretty good example of like a turquoise picture. It really gets states, stages, the similarities between us, the evolution of life. Like, but this is not horror, you know. Aronofsky does some stuff that I think pushes into teal and turquoise. My main focus, I think, would be David Lynch, because I think David Lynch actually can give us some material that we can really call turquoise. And I hope to make that argument. We can also talk a little bit about the tech base. Like, is it green, teal, or turquoise that's going to, you know, increase the social media thing, the memes thing on forums, you know, the AR, VR, ARGs, these new ways of kind of storytelling publicly and engaging publicly with the storytelling process. Those could be placed anywhere like above orange, because they kind of have to be trans orange. So like, I don't know, maybe those guys are right in terms of turquoise not really being a film thing. Like turquoise is kind of transcending that medium, telling stories on multiple mediums, maybe emergent media. That argument I could see. I would like to perhaps propose that Slenderman is mythos of the turquoise variety, because Slenderman emerges not in any particular book or picture. It emerged as a social something awful forums, I believe. They were like, come up with the spookiest thing you possibly can. Come up with the spookiest urban legend imaginable. And collaboratively, they put together the mythos of Slenderman. And then people started making movies about it and
Slenderman?
creepypasta. You're out in the woods and your reality starts distorting and you see like a tall guy in a business suit with no face. And then he makes you go insane, kill people, and you don't remember it. This is kind of the Slenderman. If you watch the YouTube series Marble Hornets, that was like, again, there's no movie of Slenderman or anything. It's a collaborative, collective thing. Okay. So there's better and worse examples. Like there's an actual film, Slenderman. There's multiple films about Slenderman. There was an actual case in real life where these young teens stabbed a girl to death in real life because Slenderman influence. So it's Korean fan death, you know, it's a public hysteria thing where it's such a good urban legend that it actually comes true, which is very frightening how this stuff has the power to do that. But it doesn't have an official, there's no the official Slenderman book, movie, game. It's just this collaborative, collective thing. So maybe that's a turquoise meme, or maybe like teal turquoise meme story. So we started talking about Slenderman because when we started talking about like different distribution methods possibly being turquoise is a whole different thing than talking about story. Obviously, Slenderman is just a like red magenta myth, but magical myth. But the interesting thing being that it was created by like sort of a think tank almost of just like really bored losers that are very intelligent and focused on pop culture. You know, they tend to do
reproduction thing. We can copy with slight differences. Yeah. When that whole group got together, something a little more scary, what are the scariest clothes he could wear? Like tattered cambric shirts. Oh, what about a business suit? Oh, Adam, you got it.
Yeah, dude, like what color is he? Is he murky? Does he have tentacles? Does he have wings? Or is his eyes red? You know, so it's trying to create a sort of monomyth of horror, urban legend horror, a collaborative process by like people who are specialists in it. Maybe a second tier kind of way of creating by shaping memes very deliberately trying to create something that could be like a meme or a monomyth in the modern time.
I've heard of it. I did hear about the case that you were talking about. Yeah, they stabbed that girl like 30 times.
It's
They
mess.
like yeah,
And
they like
didn't she survive
I
even
think
after
she
all?
did actually. I think
Isn't
she
that
did.
crazy? This
Yeah.
is what terrifies me. You can get stabbed a whole lot and live through it.
Yeah.
Whole lot.
Danielle will be walking through the house and come very close to like walking into one of the columns in the basement. Like, oh, I almost died.
I'm joking.
You know how hard it is to kill a human?
Yeah, yeah, but I
That's ugh.
hurt myself pretty easily.
I mean, it's so weird. It's like, oh, my like throat naturally created like this weird little black thing that's trying to grow. Oh, we can't do anything about that. Okay, but a person inserted a knife into my body 48 times. Oh, no problem. We'll just stitch that up. You know, your shit will keep
we'll
pumping.
fix that.
I mean, come on.
No.
It's so fucked up and nasty. And yeah, that's a really tragic, horrible thing. Kids can be very cruel.
They lured her out into the woods and they were like, "Oh yeah, she's our friend" and stuff. And it was like, yeah, it wasn't her. Like they didn't actually like that girl, I believe. And
if they actually did like the person they were jamming a knife into, that makes it even worse.
They were just mad at her that day. I was thinking of things like Limitless, where it's like, you know, human beings only use 10% of your brain. What if you used 100%? Which is kind of like silly. It's not, you know, we don't really only use 10%. You know, what does that mean to use 10% of your brain? Like, it's a silly concept. But certainly we're not as conscious and awake and intelligent as we can be. Who could argue with that? You know, like a slightly different nutritional intake, rest, you know, stimulation.
I mean, maybe someone who's turquoise, but they're busy doing nothing.
they're busy,
too busy
on a park
doing
bench.
nothing to argue with you.
Turquoise would be more busy sitting on a park bench enlightened than bothering to watch the newest Wachowski brothers film.
So beneath them.
Mm-hmm.
But I was thinking of Ex Machina. Natalie Portman is a robot, an AI machine that's like, it's kind of realized like you're more intelligent than mankind is. Like you can kind of outthink us. So we have to keep you on the DL for one thing and also keep you contained so you don't escape and start influencing world events. And she does trick them and she does escape. She uses their fatal flaw of romantic entanglement being a very good biaser of human judgment, and she gets out.
Doesn't like boobs.
So this is I don't know if this is a second tier question or a green meme question, but it's like if that we can generate an intelligence greater than us, like a network intelligence or a machine intelligence, then you know this would start replicating entirely new or different or expanded, who knows, but it's doing something with memes. It's doing something with like the way it conceptualizes itself and its environment and its history. So it would become then a second tier question. It's like, okay, as AI is birthed, what does that do to the stages of humanity, and does it create a new stage, a sideways stage? Is it just going to go straight up the spiral dynamic stages? That's a question. You know, does it do it quickly? Does it do it slowly? Does it have an ego? Does a non-mortal thing that doesn't feel pain have an ego? Does it need an ego? Is the ego required to be conscious? You know, these lots of questions about AI. And that movie isn't like the ultimate exploration of AI, nor is like 2001: A Space Odyssey, right? They're just little tickling at it. We have no idea what that shit's doing and what it's going to do. But it's certainly influencing our perspective and our movie picks and our YouTube channel, even just this like large language model style of it, which is probably just the tip of a much greater iceberg that exists and that's coming. So whether that results in mother brain planetary intelligence or just like more fun garbage for us to play around with while Turquoise Meme sits on a park bench, who knows? But I very much anticipate more AI-based horror coming up. And we do have to mention the Godfather, the Lawnmower Man, concerned with self-improvement. They take a sort of random Joe and they subject him to, what do you call it? Virtual reality-based simulations that increase your intelligence rapidly. If these are cognitive stages, if altitudes are a cognitive stage system, then he's going through these altitude stages, and he comes to the conclusion that basically, red meme, I am the superior intelligence. I will crush all of mankind and take over the world and be in control, and everyone will obey me and serve me. So maybe
why is he called the Lawnmower Man?
He was just the guy who mowed the lawns.
Oh, literal lawnmower. Okay.
Yeah.
One of the early examples of computer generated graphics. You're like, oh my God, a 3-dimensional triangle, like rushing at the camera. Amazing. It's pretty funny. It's a silly one. But things like that, you know, where it's like we're altered states, or, you know, where they're doing procedures. Altered states is a silly one I bring up sometimes. Procedures to kind of evolve the human being that result in spooky, scary, horrible things, encounters with the unknown. I felt like this might be an appropriate place to put the Cube series. So Cube is kind of like Saw on a higher level. It's like this corporation has created a death puzzle that's like a giant grid of cubic rooms.
A cube, if you will.
A cube.
I've been playing this video game. You like hover around all day. It's called Hoover.
In each room, you can go any of the directions. It may murder you. It may flamethrower you, or like cut your face off or something. And so
booty traps.
Yeah,
Don't get me started. Do not get me started.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So One-Eyed Willie eventually joined Umbrella Corporation.
So we're just going to set a bunch of traps and then sit around a table and die at different times. Next.
And it's kind of an exploration, not of stages, but of types. It's like suggesting, like, if we take different types of people, neural types and personality types, gender, all these different kind of types, people who are coming from lower walks of life and higher, more privileged, put them all in this death trap and just go, and who wins? And the big like green meme gag of it is it's actually this person who's kind of like underdeveloped. They're sort of like autistic or something, and they happen to be obsessed with prime numbers. And it turns out that like the whole code to understanding the thing has to do with like, if the door isn't a prime number, it will murder you or something like that.
Yeah.
So he ends up being the most suited to the cube.
He was very like Rain Man-esque, like just
Rain
really
Man.
good at math, and yeah.
And so everyone's like, you know, how are we going to get this person's toast? You know, this is useless. Like, we just move on. And no, they were all hoisted by their own petard. Like all their everything they thought they had going for them took them out ultimately. Except for that guy, he's just calculating.
Yep.
So this is a thesis, you know, about what type would make it through the big puzzle, and it's empowering to those other neural types, saying like, you know, if you were in the cube of death, you would be very well equipped to handle the challenges. So kind of interesting to conceptualize reality as like a death trap, with all of us having unique tools to approach it with, and it ultimately being contrived to test us to see who will be the one to escape from the death trap. Just like Phantasm had to come in somewhere, we couldn't not talk about Cube. Like, is that Turquoise? I don't know. And then my final runner-up that I got, I like Dollhouse. I would consider it a horror television show. It's one of the Joss Whedon things. Again, you know, it was not very popular while it happened, and then it got canceled, and then a big like cult following was like, why isn't this still happening? It's the best thing ever. But because we fudged the ending because we thought we had to cancel prematurely. I think Eliza Dushku, one of those gals, is a doll, and dolls are these like I think they're robots, but they might be biological humans, but they're completely reprogrammed. So all that they can do, all that they want to do, is whatever they're programmed to do. So they're kind of sent out as escorts to do whatever the paying customer wants, whether that's to like murder them, to have a date with them, to talk about life, to watch turquoise meme horror movies, to sit on a park bench, anything you'd like to keep cool. And so, I mean, of course, there's a lot of horror in that. Like, what if they become self-aware? What if they start piecing together what's going on? What if they don't want to be in the scenario that they're in? This getting into the sort of disidentification with societal roles that occurs kind of like at the start of the second tier. Disidentification, re-identification, transcending and including these story elements. Teal is very like abstracting away from them. Turquoise is kind of re-owning, reintegrating them, because the work that we're doing in this world requires us to play these roles, wear these masks. And so that, to us, perhaps as turquoise meme, agents, we might feel like a doll, like our whole egoic needs are being subjugated to the role that we have to play as like an automaton here to serve the process of growing up and waking up. So that's like, I think that's a very realistic fear of the second tier, is that like there's a duty to serve something, and that something is not your own needs. Holy cow. Like, how in the world does one reconcile oneself? Like, you may be in the position like Christ, like where your job is to suffer and die, as an example to humankind of how to be an ideal person. That's shitty. That's real shitty for the self, for the person, for the individual. But I mean, for most of us, it's not like that. It's more like you got to work a 9 to 5. You gotta clean up your mess. You gotta stop peeing on the toilet seat. Simple stuff. But the responsibility is, whatever you're choosing to take on as a second tier entity, like whatever you perceive as your responsibility becomes your responsibility, because it's all just a story. Actually, all you have to do is die. That's what Randall tell us. That's the only thing you really have to do. But then we choose between all these different priorities that we may or may not have, for how we live our life. Really, anywhere above red meme, you're kind of a doll. You're kind of an escort, because we are collective entities. This is that recognizing of the lower quadrants, that it's really hard to do that for, I think, every person, taming the beast, that I am reducible to a social role, which may or may not be compatible with what I want to do or what I want to be or what I think I am. That's the situation that pretty much all post red meme, perspectives are facing. This multiple dimensional responsibility, multiple dimensions through multiple dimensions. So Twin Peaks is a TV show, and they did make a movie, so it's legal to call this a movie.
We're legal.
Yeah, they should have made a Dollhouse movie. David Lynch is a great example of a turquoise meme filmmaker, possibly indigo turquoise meme. And Twin Peaks is a great example of what I would consider turquoise media. And I also listed it as an example of teal meme mystery box style storytelling, where it's pushing the responsibility of understanding who I am and what I'm supposed to do onto the audience. So we do kind of like a little brief look at the Twin Peaks like universe. We could really do any David Lynch movie, but this one gives us a lot of material. They had a 2-season television show that took place in the 90s. It was sort of a mystery noir thing. It was like there's a woman was murdered in a small town. It's actually called Twin Peaks, but it is the town of North Bend, slight ways east of Seattle. And so Laura Palmer is murdered. We don't know who. And David Lynch's original intention was to never reveal who murdered Laura Palmer, so that golden goose would keep laying the egg of mystery. So
as long as we don't know who, we can always write a story where we get close.
Another season, another episode, one more.
And the studio demanded in season 2 that they reveal the killer, and that spoiled everything. And David Lynch left, and the show started to suck. And then he was called back to do this movie where he goes back to the mystery of who killed Laura Palmer. The lead character is this FBI agent called Dale Cooper, who is an audience insert. You, as the green to second tier audience, are supposed to relate to this person who's like very eager, very unafraid, very strong, inquisitive, curious about the plot. Just wants to know, who are all these people in this town? Who killed this woman? Trying to generate plot, trying to move forward. Always reasonable, in touch with like the paranormal and spiritual like abilities. So he's kind of like this Mary Sue character that you're supposed to identify with as a person approaching the mystery of Twin Peaks. In the show takes on kind of goofy parody elements of drama, police drama, noir stuff, and police fiction, mystery stories, and soap operas even. But it's doing it in a really self-aware, goofy way, so that it can comment on these mediums that are the nighttime television programs. So it's a show about what it is to be like the primetime television. The movie is a movie about adapting a movie from a TV show. It's like literally about that. That's the thematic content of it. The Return show was one season that they did very recently, 25 years after the original release, since in a dream, Laura promised us that she'd be back in 25 years.
Better make good.
And that entire thing is a meta commentary on what a reboot is or can be or, can make you feel. So a Turquoise piece should have that kind of meta and meta commentary. It should take place across multiple media, which it does. It has like books and online community and discussion, film, TV. So it's this multimedia kind of packet thing, all designed to get people talking, asking questions, what is the true mystery? How do you interpret it? And the show includes all 5 of the Aqua modules. Just, in brief, types are sort of, what are the types of characters you would see in a piece of fiction like this, right? You got the kind of like crazy housewife, you got the like cowboy, you got the ex-con, you got the red-haired lady with an eye patch, all these kind of archetypal, often based on sort of Crowleyan old magic stuff that I'm not all that familiar with. But there's definitely a type system at play based around tropes of the genre. So that's really fun. The stages of consciousness are extremely well represented. Like, it's hard to watch a piece like Twin Peaks and not like appreciate that, like, oh my God, like every character is very like rooted in a perspective that values particular things. Like, this character will always be narcissistic. This character will always be interested in profit and bottom line. And so they'll be like the corrupt business magnate or whatever. This character is only concerned with finding true love and identity and belongingness with like the love of their life. And so all these characters are really rooted in like a stage and quadrant perspective. You see the lines come out because everyone's got a quirky personality and they all have like their own kind of talents and deficits. Even kind of Cooper, he's sort of a weirdo and he's has trouble sort of interfacing with a lot of these people. A lot of his arc is kind of the Turquoise arc of re-owning your own unique self and engaging with other people in a more authentic way. The real big one, I think, to skip quadrants, because quadrants are kind of represented in everything, but like if you tell an accurate story, you kind of get the quadrants. States of consciousness, Lynch is obsessed with states. So there's prophetic dreams. We can kind of break apart, like the psychic and subtle is represented by these places called the White Lodge and the Black Lodge. And these are based on old Native American myths in the narrative of the story. These lodges are places where sort of trans-dimensional elemental force of nature entities can enter humans from the subtle and do things through the human beings. So the actual killer of Laura Palmer is her father, but he's inhabited by this entity from the Black Lodge, this like Bob character, who's just a sort of evil spirit that lusts for human flesh or that feeds on pain and suffering. And so there's this whole cadre of these weird entities. Like the fireman seems to be a good guy. He wants to bring order to this system, the giant or the fireman. And there's a little guy too who calls himself the Arm. And that's the classic, wait, we do this down here. It's really weird. It's just this little guy, and he's a magician, and he seems to be sort of the hunger of the other realm, the desire for human suffering. That's a metaphor for us, the audience watching the show. For some reason, in any drama picture, in any fictionalization, you have to have drama. You have to have pain and sorrow and suffering. So just like Cabin in the Woods, the end game is that these transdimensional entities get to feed on pain and suffering, which is the pain and suffering in the story. It has to be there. Laura had to die and be sacrificed so that we would enjoy watching this picture. Then, okay, so that's like your sort of psychic subtle realm, is these lodges with these entities. Transcending that, there's an actual like non-dual moment at the end of the series where they're all in the television show. And then Cooper's face in black and white is imposed over the footage, and he's just looking around, seeing the television show that they're in, and he says, "We live within a dream." He realizes that the television show is a television show, and he leaves the reality of the television show through an arcane ritual that he does with Laura Dern. They have sex in a hotel to conjure whatever allows you to pass between realms, and they go to either real reality or a different television show, and then it just abruptly ends. That's how it goes.
And
to be in a reality and for your witness consciousness to stand apart from it and see that it's just a multi-party television show taking place. That is sort of like the causal non-dual. It's like a representation of those transcendental states of consciousness in the medium of a television show, which is like a pretty darn rare thing. So states are captured in Twin Peaks like amazingly and in a novel way that you've like never seen before. I think that's really the hook of the show. States of consciousness kind of realistically, but also metaphorically. But Lynch practices transcendental meditation. He's familiar with these state realms. So like what he's depicting is at least like artistically, thematically accurate to states of consciousness. Even so, he is still sort of speculating. So I think like Turquoise is like exactly where I would put all of Lynch's work. You know, it's upward looking, it's inward looking, but it doesn't really have all those answers. He's still telling stories to make sense of things with an audience. I would place that at second tier. And it's doing so.
Teal at very minimum. Like, understanding the story is not the burden of the story explaining itself to you.
And so, yeah, like the story is never fully explained. And this is one of those like godfathers of mystery box storytelling. It was like, wait, you can do that? Well, nobody said I couldn't do that. And it works. It works really well because it was so like astonishing. Everyone was talking about this. Everybody wanted to know the answers. Like they didn't even know that would happen. But yeah, so that became sort of a basis. And then you have these kind of more cheap and schlocky versions of mystery box where it's literally just, I'm withholding information that I'll never tell you. Nah. Mm-hmm. But it really should be, you know, in service of like, well, the reason for that is because it's an abstract mystery that you can't comprehend. So in this Twin Peaks story, or like in The Matrix or something, where it's a little bit more of an articulation of a Turquoise meme reality, it's not that I'm just holding things from you and keeping you from knowing them. It's that these are complicated things that can only be arrived at through intuition. Like they don't make sense to the front of your mind. They don't make sense to the mechanistic, like thing goes in whole mind. Instead, I'm going to solve a murder because a tiny man whispered in my ear in a dream. And then I threw a stone at a bottle and asked it a question. Just suggesting that anything of that sort might actually be real is kind of novel in mainstream television. And enormously popular. That's pleasing, you know, that it crosses the bridge. You can watch Twin Peaks at any stage and get something out of it. The aesthetic or the characters or the funniness or the action. So it's really kind of like a pan level presentation. Other David Lynch presentations, less so. They're less appealing to the mind that isn't into abstraction and reading between the lines and artsy things. Lynch goes way more artsy outside of Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks has like a strong mainstream appeal, which I think is kind of part of what Turquoise should be doing. It should be appealing more to every stage, where Teal is very focused on like higher stages, higher. Turquoise is sort of every directional. It's sort of like, you know, why would you disregard anything, discard anything? You know, why would you not watch a good movie? Why, you know, how in the world is sitting in a park bench a more integral activity than watching a movie?
The difference between Teal and Turquoise are subtle, but they're there. Turquoise goes back to recognizing that all other stages have to exist, and none of them are wrong.
And they don't need to be grown up. They don't need to be transcended.
There's nothing wrong with being in a stage.
So it was a little tough to come up with great examples of Turquoise, especially in horror movies. We're not transmedia, we've decidedly not transmedia, but maybe multimedia, maybe cross media, maybe new media. So, but films are still a very acceptable way to present Turquoise story. We did have trouble finding anything that focuses really specifically on Turquoise meme Anything that's kind of getting into the outside of the visible light spectrum, but still conceptualizing like holonically and evolutionarily. That's where we would see the great turquoise horror movie. And we're still kind of waiting for it. But David Lynch offers us probably the best turquoise horror that we can find right now. So next time around, next week, we're going to check out the third tier. As we said before, these become more obscure, more weird, more speculative, more easy to dismiss or deny. Absolutely, that's normal and called for and required for this knowledge quest to continue forward. But we will be going into the psychic, subtle, causal, and non-dual stage representations and seeing these are actually a little more easy to find movies that kind of make some sort of art piece about states of consciousness as stages. It's still a little bit of a stretch for sure.
So thanks for stopping by. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. We'll see you in the conversations and comments we have on Discord and our YouTube channel.
Sucking on her blankie.
Yeah, she suckles on fucking blankets.
That's weird, man. Is it licking? Is that licking going on?
She's suckling on it.
But she's literally like going, like sucking on it?
Yep.
Looks like when like lizards get all horny and they need to like expand their throat